Provisions of the National Lottery Act of 2005 across all 36 states of the Federation as well as the FCT. Let's try and recap now. In March 2005, former President Olusegun Obasanjo signed the National Lottery Bill into law, which allowed for the operation of a national lottery as well as the establishment of the National Lottery Regulatory Commission. And then in 2008, the Lagos state government filed a lawsuit against this enforcement. In 2020, as well as in the year 2022, other states joined as co-defendants in the case. The Supreme Court has now ruled that legislation cannot be enforced in all states except the Federal Capital Territory, as the National Assembly is empowered to make laws for the country's capital. So that's what we want to discuss now as we bring on board from our Abuja studio Comrade Okwoku Ogenyi. He is the National Coordinator of the Coalition for Good Governance and Change Initiatives. Thanks a lot, Comrade Ogenyi, for joining us. So what are your thoughts? What do you make of this?
Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning. What do you make of this intervention by the Supreme Court?
Hello?
Right. What do you make of this intervention by the Supreme Court?
Well,
Comrade, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can barely hear you.
Right. What do you make of this intervention by the Supreme Court?
Yes. As a concerned Nigerian, I believe that the Supreme Court has acted ultra vires and against the interests of the over 250 million Nigerians. The decision of the Supreme Court has actually encouraged terrorism financing, cybercrime, and unregulated lottery activities in Nigeria. The decision of the Supreme Court has also brought shame, disgrace, and serious embarrassment to the nation called Nigeria, where the Global Forum on Lottery look at us as jokers. You agree with me that we have 47 country members of the Global Forum on Lottery and Game of Chance, which Nigeria is a member. The cyberspace by international law is regulated by the federal government to checkmate cybersecurity, terrorism, and others. You will also agree with me that lottery and Game of Chance is mainly played online, and only the federal government has the jurisdiction over our airspace. The decision of the Supreme Court, although we read it on the pages of newspaper, we have not seen the certified true copy, but what the papers have reported shows that the judges are not true Nigerians. Because if the honorable justices of the Supreme Court are Nigerians and have the interests of the country at heart, they cannot hand down such hard judgment on Nigerians. And I want to add that lottery, even the lottery operators, who are mostly foreigners, are not happy with the judgment. You see that there must be a regulation of the lottery industry, and that regulation can only be done internationally. In South Africa, in Ghana, even in the United States of America, they have the national body to regulate lottery activities because the cyberspace is only controlled by the federal government. The justices erred on the ground that, first, they ruled that the National Assembly has no power to legislate on issue of states.
Comrade, I'm trying to get your attention.
They have no power to regulate the issue of lottery. Now, listen.
No, Comrade, the thing is, you will continue speaking, but then because I've been trying to call your attention. So I want you to speak to the issue rather than, going ad hominem. It's not about the judges. It's about what they've actually adjudicated upon. And it's the Supreme Court, the apex court in the land. So we should just speak to the issues rather than having to say whether the judges are Nigerians. Of course, we all know that they are Nigerians. But then if you look at it, we've been talking about devolution of power, where we are asking states to, where we are advocating that states control their resources and also taxation to some extent. Do you not see that this is a line with our drive or our advocacy for the devolution of power for states to be able to control some of the resources, especially those transactions that are taken within their territories?
When you talk about devolution of powers, we're talking about true federalism. You have the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, whose act was just being upheld by the same Supreme Court. And you agree with me, like in the case of Kogi State, the governor of Kogi State came out and said that money is not missing. And EFCC said money is missing and is still investigating. I will say that the former governor of Kogi State was arraigned yesterday by the same EFCC in the court. So what is good for the goose is good for the gander. What I'm saying here is the fact that if the justices are true Nigerians, they will have the interest of the over 250 million Nigerians at heart.
I wouldn't want you to speak about the judges.
We're talking about
it's
policy.
About the fact that they have right in front of them.
We're talking about policy.
So I would rather you speak
to about policy. Yes, I'm speaking to the issue. We're talking about policy of government. And we're talking about the decision of the Supreme Court in regard to the Act of the National Assembly that established the Lottery Act of 2005. Now, this act was enacted by the National Assembly because it is not captured directly in the Constitution. Any list, any act, anything that is not captured in the Constitution directly come in form of an act. And the National Assembly has done its job by enacting the law to regulate the lottery activities in the country. And you will agree with me that the lottery industry has the capacity to generate over 12 trillion naira for the federal government with the introduction of the RAP project by Mr. President. The decision of the court is actually a setback to the President Tinubu's administration. And indeed, is giving the opposition more room to also lambast the president and limit him to be the president of Lagos, as the oppositions are always be saying. We are ardent supporters of the country. We are people that believe in the integrity of Mr. President. And we cannot allow anyone, be it a judge or any Nigerian, to sabotage the effort of the federal government. Today, we are talking about Lottery Act. Tomorrow, you begin to talk about resource control. The Niger Deltas may come out to say they own oil, and they have to take it. And others will come and say they have cocoa, they have to take it. Others in Zafra will say they have gold, they have to take it. And it will become an issue of chaos. So we must, as Nigerians, come to safeguard the president administration. Now, I want to add, listen, I want to...
Before you go on, comrade, before you go on, we're having a conversation. It's not a monologue. Kindly allow us to project, to come in from intervals to get clarifications from you so that we can have an understanding and our viewers can understand better where you are coming from. Let's also be mindful of our statements, because you just said now that you will not allow the judiciary do certain things. We all know the principle of separation of powers. They have their powers to do what they have done. And this is the apex court, by the way. So let's be very circumspect in how we speak, because this is an international platform. I urge you, Comrade Ogenyi. First off, I need clarification on what you said earlier on, that this judgment or this decision by the apex court is a disservice to the Tinubu administration. Help us understand what you mean.
Because, thank you very much, the federal government wrote the National Assembly to approve 1.7 trillion naira borrowing, while the lottery industry has the capacity to generate 12 trillion naira for the country. So why do we go borrowing when we have the source of funding within us? And why should the court not look at the benefit of this revenue in the country and throw away the child and the bathing water? Now, why I was emphasizing on the issue of the court, and I said that we cannot allow whosoever to disrupt or destroy the present administration of President Bola Tinubu, is the fact that the federal government is making conscious effort to develop the country. Port Harcourt refinery is just in operation. Warri refinery is on the way. Kaduna refinery is on the way. You need money to do all this turnaround maintenance. You need money to also fund the national budget. So if you have source of funding in the country and you are already bastardizing it, leaving it to be freeway. Now, let me tell you this. There is no way state government can effectively regulate lottery activities in the country. It is on cyberspace. In fact, I don't even believe that the decision of the court will rule that the act is completely expunged, because the court held that National Assembly can legislate only on FCT. The same court held that the law should not be implemented in the plaintiff states. And the same court also held that the law is voided in entirety. So these are three contradictions. And it is on this premise that I say we cannot allow anyone to bastardize the image of the present administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, I want you to also understand this fact, that today in Nigeria, we have a market that must be regulated. This money, some of them go into terrorism financing, if not regulated. This money go into abysmal corruption, if not regulated. The state government that we're even talking about, how many states have laws on lottery? And can the state even collectively come together, make law that will regulate lottery globally, or put Nigeria in the map of a forum of lottery operators in the world? The answer is no. Now we are combating with regional security. You are aware that most countries around us have been overtaken by the military. And they are also posing as a threat to the common existence of the country. So we should not give room to anything that would jeopardize the sovereignty of Nigeria. The president is doing his work. The National Assembly had work. The judiciary is also working. What I'm saying here is the fact that you saw what happened in Rivers State, where there were conflicting court judgment and court orders. Thank God the Chief Justice of Nigeria set up a committee, a panel that investigated those issues, and 2 justices have been suspended. Peace has been temporarily returned to Rivers State. And we want the Supreme Court to spearhead such in the country. But even if you discover or realize that the Lottery Act is in the residual list, which is the exclusive right of state government to make law, what about the cyber space that is owned exclusively by the federal government? So when you have 2 issues conflicting, what do? You marry it together. And besides, this lottery revenue is not only does not belong to the federal government. The lottery revenue is utilized across the 36 states of the federation, including the FCT. So if you say that National Assembly has the powers to legislate on FCT and you expunge the law, it therefore means that even the FCT has been exempted from these lottery activities, because it has to start afresh, going to the same National Assembly to enact the same law that you are said to would have repealed. And that is why I'm faulting the reportage of some of these media outfits that insisted that the law in its entirety has been expunged, and they did not even report any session that make reference to the international law or the airspace of the country. So we are Nigerians. When I say if the justices are true Nigerians, I didn't say they are not Nigerians. I said if they are true Nigerians. True Nigerians are people that have the interests of the country at heart.
Well,
true Nigerians are people that take service above
and that is where we disagree with you. You know, whatever decision,
Good.
we know that whatever decision any judges or justices have taken is based on the facts that they have, and they are qualified to start with, to be there in the first place. But then let's just speak to the issue, and I love the fact, I love the way you are, approaching this issue. But let's just leave the judges aside. We talked about the states. Now the states will have the. Let's look at it from this angle. The states will have the opportunity or the direct control over gaming revenues. And if you look at the dwindling allocation, even though we know that, yes, allocations have increased, but we know the value of the naira and everything, how it affects not just ordinary people, but the states at large. They now have an opportunity for themselves to generate revenue. That's one side. And we're not looking at it from that side. Another angle to look at it is the regulation which you raised. Do you not feel that it's also an opportunity for states to tailor the regulation of these gaming activities to local needs and priorities?
To be very candid, the state does not have the powers to effectively regulate lottery activities.
Is that what you think?
We only regulate the activities within the state. Let me explain to you now. When I say do not have the effectiveness to regulate it holistically, I'm talking about online. The international law has given the exclusive right to the federal government to take charge of our airspace. And this game mostly are played online. And let me tell you another thing. Now, if the lottery operators are complaining, because if you have to operate in the 36 states, you need to operate 36 licenses instead of obtaining just one federal license to operate in the 36 states, which has become another threat to the existence of their business. So now, you will also agree with me that the decision of the court, according to what is reported in the newspaper, is actually discouraging foreign investors in the lottery sector. As we speak, there was a lottery company that wrote to the Attorney General seeking interpretation and citing some other discrepancies that will also hinder the progress of their business in the country. So we are trying to look at the economic benefit of lottery and gaming. We're trying to look at the effective regulation of lottery activities. We are trying to talk about terrorism control, terrorism financing, cyber security, and others. The world is on global stage. AI is taking over the world. So we cannot at any point allow our international space, our airspace, to be left fallow. So it must be regulated. And let me tell you this. Some decisions are taken not because of the interests of the country. I personally believe that this decision was not the best interest for the country. And I also urge the honorable justices that if what is reported in the media is true, then they should repeal themselves. They should also be able to also review themselves.
Okay, so what are the options for stakeholders as yourself? Because generally, it's been commendation after commendation for this action taken by the senior justices, by these appellate justices, though you say that, there is need for caution at this time now because of the reportage and the fact that perhaps maybe the certified true copy of the judgment isn't out for one to really read in detail the judgment of the Apex Court. But we understand that it was a unanimous decision by all the 7 justices that sat on the matter. With the way things stand now, what are the options for advocates as yourself?
Yes. The options left for Nigeria as it is for the Attorney General to look into the matter. Once the certified true copy is out, the Attorney General should be able to look into the matter carefully, considering the security threat the decision of the Apex Court posed to the country, to the existence of Nigeria, cyber security, and especially the fact that there is a rumor that such freelance, unregulated gaming activities in Nigeria is also a ploy to mop us funds against the president's re-election in 2027. So we must check holistically the security implication, the political implication, the economic implication. And by so doing, the Attorney General should also be able to go back to the same Supreme Court to seek interpretation to this judgment and see how we can be able to bring ourselves together. The fact is, if the National Assembly actually enacted the law and the court repealed the law and the court also held that FCT the National Assembly has power to regulate on FCT, it therefore means that the law itself cannot be repealed in its entirety. So that reported by the media houses may be false. So the Attorney General should look into it. Mr. President himself should also not allow people to look at him as President of Lagos, as the oppositions are saying. Because what people are saying now is because Mr. President is from Lagos and the lottery operation is mainly in Lagos, and the decision is taken, the case was instituted by Mr. President when he was a governor. I want to clear this. When Mr. President was a governor, he instituted the case, yes, because the then president decided to withhold the federal allocation to Lagos State. You cannot be taking money that belongs to all of us to be shared among us, and you are withholding my own. So I will have the right to say, allow me to generate my money and utilize it the way it is. But the case today is not the same. Mr. President is allowing every state to take their money as at when due. So there is no cause to say we are going to decide on issues that have to do with national security without considering the interests of Nigerians. So stakeholders should come together. Those who have been coming out to criticize, to support the judgment, are those who have been paid to do so. I am saying that because they have not come to speak for the interests of the nation. You must first look at cyber security, you look at the airspace, you look at terrorism financing, you look at the huge revenue, 12 trillion naira that will be generated for this country to allow Mr. President to continue with his good work for the nation. And you will just come out to say that you are hailing the decision of the Apex Court. The justices are human. They live among men. They also have feelings. Their kids and wives attend public schools and functions. So therefore, public opinion should be something that must be based on national interest, to also appeal to the consent of the honorable justices to do the needful for the interest of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Yes, so in talking about public opinion, in all of this, you know, there are some people who even take different sides, you know, as against, okay, who regulates what, talking about revenue generation for either state or local government, maybe these will affect the impact or will impact on the federal revenue generated by the, you know, the federal government. You know, what regulatory shifts are underway? Concerns about gambling still remains, you know, talking about addiction and consumer protection, you know, those things, those factors still remain. Should we begin to talk about prioritizing a balance of revenue generation and safeguarding public welfare? Because there are some people that say, we do not even want to have anything to do with game of chance, gambling, because it's not even good. You know, if you look at some religious, some religious people.
So even our life itself is gambling. Things we do,
How do you mean?
On daily basis is gambling. Leaving your home to your office, coming back home is also gambling. So it's
taking
also
a risk
a
is
chance.
From gambling.
So
no, taking a risk
persons
is from gambling. I will want. We just need to put this thing in perspective.
Listen. Yes, gambling is associated with risk. That is what I'm trying to establish. That gambling is associated with what? Risk. And you say it is called game of chance and lottery. So many Africans that won lottery, the US lottery, the UK lottery, Canada lottery, they are doing well today. Lottery is actually to promote some certain area of experts. You agree with me, there are nations of the world that survive mainly on lottery.
Gambling. Comrade again,
the source of funding of their national budget is on lottery. So when, wait, when you hear, you have some persons who say we should not even participate.
If you can hear me, the thing is, while it works
yes,
for
I
others,
can hear you now.
it has also destroyed others, because some people had invested their lives, everything they have, into gambling, and they are wretched today. So it's about whether you want to do it or not. But I still maintain that some religious, some clergymen, maybe some ulamas will tell you that game of chance is something that is forbidden in their religion. So should we not also, as you advocate public opinion, should we not also, consider these opinions too and say, okay, why do we even have to debate, game of chance, gambling and all of that? Why don't we even forget it and generate revenue from transportation, mining, education, health, etc., and some other things that can bring in monies for us?
Okay, thank you very much. You are also aware that consumption of alcohol is prohibited by
Absolutely.
some religion, and even some states in the country prohibited the consumption of alcohol. That still does not stop the government from taking a value-added tax from alcohol. And it's also being shared among these same states that do not even consume alcohol. So when you talk about the game of chance, it's the same thing like this alcohol. So if you can successfully ban the consumption of alcohol in the country because of certain persons prohibited it or religion, then you can successfully ban the game of chance because of certain persons or religion also forbidden it. So let's be very realistic. When we are discussing about policy, we're talking about lottery and game of chance has come to stay in the world. And either you like it or not, it's not everything you must do. Even I'm a Christian by religion, and the Christian faith is not everything that is being held in my church that is held in another church. So there are diverse views and opinions, and it works like that. There are churches that you don't wear scarf. Ladies can come in. Churches must wear scarf before you go in as a lady into the church. But that does not stop the church from existing as a corporate entity. So what I want to say is the game of chance should be properly regulated. And the only way to regulate it is through a national body. Because if you do not regulate it, you are already exposing the country to cyber security threats. You're exposing the country to terrorism financing. You're already exposing the country to shortage of revenue that could be used to fund the national budget. Now, let me tell you this.
Comrade, we've run out of time. We've run out of time.
Yes, let me say this. There is a statistics that Africa, mainly Nigeria, fund 5% of American budget through this Facebook, TikTok, lottery, and others. While we are starving here, borrowing from them, they are feeding with our money. So we should harness it.
We'll build on this point. We'll build on this point at a later date. Comrade Ogenyi, Comrade Okpoko Ogenyi, National Coordinator for the Coalition for Good Governance and Change Initiatives, thanks for your contributions. We appreciate.
Thank you very much.
And still ahead.